I am Joha Mune and welcome to the Painter's Talk. Today we're going to have Momo Signs. He's going to give us a demonstration on Roman style letters. Momo is a sign writer from North Wales, and I have the pleasure of meeting him in Norwich in 2021. And yeah, not saying more, Momo, welcome and thank you for being here.
Hi, Joa, and thank you for inviting me along. It's kind of quite a big thing, this, for me, really. Yeah, and it's always nice to chat to you. So it's kind of feels like a weird thing for me because I'm still quite new to sign writing, and I think I have so much to learn still with my lettering. So it's fun to feel like I'm at a point where I can pass on a little bit of knowledge already.
Yeah, and man, thank you for being here. I think that is lovely when we spoke and you say, hey, Joe, I actually want just to give back to the community and share a little bit of what I have learned. Because the truth is that you haven't been in the sign writing world for very long, but you have learned really, really fast. I mean, I can say that it impressed me. Like, I admire your process and I love it. So,
Thank you.
and one of the things that I like from you is your Roman style. Recently, you did this gigantic project in the, it was a bus station, right?
It was, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so, and you say, for me, I try to read it, it doesn't say anything to me.
Oh, okay. So it's the second longest name in the world. Hopefully we can put a picture up for people to see. But
Yeah,
that was,
definitely.
yeah, that was a really, really fun one. And I think that was my most fun painting moment so far, really.
Wow.
Because like Roman lettering is quite tight and linear and has rules, and normally it's very clean, and that's how it looks successful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of the foundation for everything. But with that job, I kind of wanted it to be a bit more playful and to make the letters as large as I could in the space I had. And I managed that by making them all different sizes and kind of juggling them a little bit. So it's quite nice to take a letter with such tight rules and kind
Uh-huh.
of and play with the rules a little bit. I think that's the first time I've really, really done that.
Yeah, but the truth is, you know really well the foundations of these letters. They always say know the rules and learn how to break them. And I think that that's the key to know until which point you can go, is what you're saying, to expand or to contract or to make them longer. But you know until which point you are like, if I continue here, I will be like the letter will be unbalanced or something like that.
Right, and I think that's a point that you almost don't quite realize you've arrived at, because as creatives, we always want to push the rules and try things differently, and we might not see at the time the mistakes we're making. But if I look back at work from even a year ago, like these letters I put up here to show,
Uh-huh.
I can see things that I struggle with and would like to change already, and I feel that I've got better at. And that's just through study and repetition and doing it
Yeah.
over and over.
But I also think that we are very critic with our own work and with the work of other people. Like standards are really, really high. So always it's like, well, it could be better, it could be this. But at the end of the day, people with normal eyes, like no sign writers, they are like, no, they look really pretty.
Of course, we've got the special eyes,
Yeah, exactly. So, uh,
critical eyes.
Momo, quick question. I'm going to help a lot of people here. So explain us a little bit about your name. So
Oh,
in social media, people can find you as,
yeah, as Momo Signs,
okay,
Momo. But my
beautiful.
name is Tomos. It's a Welsh spelling of Thomas, but Tomos. Yeah, so Thomas Jones is my full name.
Okay. And why then your aka is Momo?
Oh yeah. So when I set up a business account, I was struggling to think of what to use, and it goes back to my sister. Just when she was a baby and started talking, babies can't pronounce T's and S's, so she used to call me Momo. right? And then we've kind of forgot about it for nearly 30 years or something. And when she had children, my niece and nephew went through the same thing, and they called me
Oh,
Momo. And they still call me Momo, and they find it
oh.
really weird that I have called my business Momo Signs. They're like, really? Okay.
We're an honor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's a really cool story. I really, really like it. So, Mom, I think that we could just simply jump on the demonstration you are going to give us. I already can see that you prepare some examples for us, and I am really, really eager to learn from you. So, all the
Oh, cool.
space
Okay, well,
here.
I will do my best. Thank you. I will do my best. So I've drawn out. I thought I would kind of draw out sign writing and maybe Roman as well if we get that far. And the reason we're drawing it and not painting it is, I definitely believe that, particularly in my experience, you need to be able to draw a shape well before you can paint it.
Yeah,
Um, maybe maybe if you put in the same amount of time with the brush as you do the pencil, you'll be able to just paint it. But it's so important to understand the shape. And at
absolutely.
least with a pencil, you can kind of rub things out and redraw them. So these are my most used tools. This particularly, actually, if you don't have one and people don't have them, it's a mechanical eraser. So I use this as much as I use the pencil.
I also
So
have a
such a
couple,
useful
and they're
tool.
amazing because they also can be very precise.
Exactly, exactly. So you could draw 5 lines and rub out 4 of them. One of them's got to be right. Yeah. Um, so,
Yeah.
Je- so on this, the way I'd start really is, so I've got a faint center line. And so if we're going to put out the word, I'm just going to do Roman actually, because sign writing's a really long word. So what I tend to do, and hopefully you can see this on the screen, you may not be able to, but I would literally just very roughly um, write out Roman kind of accurately, just to figure out where my center point is.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of 2/3 of the way through the M. So I generally will start my word from the center and draw the back half first. I think a lot of sign writers do that, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And it's easy to fix if you need to. Um, so I generally will start by roughly
Momo,
kind of.
will you be able to put your camera a little bit closer?
Oh
Then
yeah, of course.
we can see
Uh-huh.
better your pen drawing.
Yeah. Uh-huh. How is
Yeah.
this?
Yes,
Is that
that
better?
looks really good.
Okay, fantastic. So I start all of the drawings with just very quickly ticking things out. And it's taken me a long time to kind of learn spacing. Um,
Uh-huh.
there are some little rules that help get the spacing right first time. But again, it takes a while to kind of learn those rules really. Um, what I used to do a lot was put in a center line, which I've not done here. And maybe that's me getting a little lazy, but I also feel a bit more comfortable these days with the shapes and where I want the kind of crossbars to go.
Okay.
Um, uh, okay, so I've ticked it out quite
So
roughly. Happy with the spacing.
but just to interrupt, so you have a baseline, a middle
Have a
line.
baseline, yeah, a top line, and
Yeah.
then it's always good to put in a center line. Um, So yeah, you should always have those 3 things, and that helps you kind of balance the letter a little bit.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to draw it a bunch of times or rub something out or draw over it.
Uh-huh.
Um, so there's a few things I think that make Roman letters look really nice, and one of those is not having um, like absolutely straight lines for the letters. They always look slightly better when they're just a little bit curved. It doesn't have to be curved by much. A little subtle amount makes a big difference. Um, so I mean, I'll just start drawing, Joe, if that's okay, and then you can
Yeah,
kind
of
of
course.
gonna ask me anything. So again, putting in like a slight curve on the back side of this R. Um, One thing that helped me a lot as well when I was kind of getting used to Roman like words or any lettering actually. You'll know this trick, many people won't, is to use a piece of card to kind of draw out your thick and thin strokes
Yeah.
so that they're consistent across the whole word. So we've done a thick there, and we'll do a little thin mark as well. I generally don't really use this anymore because I kind of have got quite good at just guessing it and getting it fairly right. But it takes time. Something I say a lot and I will lose track. I have ADHD for everyone else watching. And if you can relate to this, it means your brain goes in a million directions at once.
Don't worry, I will keep you on track.
So with curved letters, the widest part of the curve always tends to be wider than the widest straight stroke. So even though that's our thick straight stroke, this should be wider, which it is. Optically, it looks right when you do it that way.
Okay, that's a really good tip.
So that's maybe a little bit wide. We'll change that in a bit. So what I will often do is draw out the whole word and then I'll start to go back over it. Um, I started to feel a bit self-conscious recently because there were a lot of older sign writers saying, "Oh, you shouldn't draw letters, you shouldn't use pounces, you should be able to just do it straight off." And kind of that got to me a little bit. But then I remembered that they're forgetting the amount of times that they put in learning in a structured environment as well. You know, we don't have courses anymore. We don't generally have apprenticeship. I mean, there are short courses, of course. You do courses, you know, people like Joby Carter, Dave Kinniston, Paul Myerscough, Dave Smith. A lot of people do courses, but they're different to the courses of
That they
years gone
used
by,
to
aren't
do.
they? We're in formal education. So yeah, in formal education, you'd put in so many hours.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so you know, with round letters, use a compass. Well, use anything round to make it easy. I just draw it in quickly these days.
So if I guess the O, at the tops, we are going to have the tiniest, like the smallest gaps, and at the laterals, we're going to have the biggest distance.
yes, so the thin goes at the bottom and the thick goes at the sides. And
Yes.
they're so originally they were painted or written by right-handed people, and they're offset slightly. So rather than kind of an oval that's straight upright, it sits to the side.
Oh, that's
An important
beautiful. It gives a
an
lot of
important
character to the O.
An important thing with curved letters as well, I haven't mentioned, is that they need to poke above and below the baseline and the top line just a little
Yeah,
bit, not a lot, but just a little bit.
yeah,
If we drew them exactly to the baseline and the top line, they would optically look a little bit too small.
yeah.
You notice this when people use tape a lot and don't pull it out for the curved letters. It's a giveaway. I'm not saying that tape is bad. It has its place. Some people use it, some people don't. I prefer not to, and I'd always like to try and get the best finish with the brush, really, because I think that will make me the best version of the painter that I can be.
Yeah,
Um,
it's everything about brush control at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can learn it. But there is a risk sometimes in using aids to help you that it will hold you back a little bit. So anyway, we've poked above the center line and the baseline. Can you see this okay on camera, Joa?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you're
Try and
tracing
draw it.
now the letters like darker, so we can
I'll
see.
try and do it darker so you can see it a bit better as well. So hopefully you can see. We've only gone like a millimeter, maybe not even 2 millimeters above
Okay.
above the lines. Roughly draw this in. I always find it helps to tilt my head a bit when drawing the inside of an O. So this offset oval inside the O is the same rule for the other big curved letters for C's and G's. So it's always kind of offset in the center. So again, if we're measuring it, I've got that kind of right. So the thicks are thicker than those upright letters. It's a bit squiffy, but we'll go back and change that. Spacing's a really hard one to get right. And before I learned some tricks on how to improve it first time, what I did was draw, and I still draw on tracing paper a lot, because it makes it really easy to make changes. Just for people watching, the way I used to make a change. So if I decided these two letters were too close, I would get another little bit of tracing paper, draw out my X. We're not going to do this accurately. This is just to show you. Slide it behind the original drawing, and then you can play with the placing of it and just move it across ever so slightly. I would also draw in the top line and the baseline, so you've got a reference, but then you can move your letters ever so slightly. That was really helpful for me.
And then will you erase the S from the top and retrace it?
That's right. That's right.
That's a really good tip.
I could do it in more detail if you like, and show you fully.
Yeah, I think we can go ahead with Roman and you show us, like, maybe if you
okay,
adjust.
We'll carry on with it. So yeah, thick and thins again. A lot of people get them the wrong way around, and it makes letters look really strange because we've been used to seeing them the right way around, and you know, the Roman letter has kind of paved the way for every letter behind it. So with M's and A's and V's and W's, the thick is always the one going from diagonally top left to bottom right. So we'll draw in a thin letter, a thin stroke here. Well, it's nice to make these serifs kind of small and the bottoms curved inwards a little bit rather than completely flat. It seems to have kind of a softer feel and look more hand painted, because we don't want things to look like they've come out of a computer either, do we? So again, thick stroke from diagonal left to bottom right. So then we'd have another thin stroke. With our M's and W's, we're trying to match these negative spaces. So these should look the same. So where these two strokes meet should be the same horizontally here. So our thin stroke should kick out about there.
In Roman, the M is as wide as the W?
I forget, in honesty. So again, I started with rules and I've kind of gone a bit rogue, but they are very wide. I think what I've tried to do and what I've been doing subconsciously, and I'm only realizing it now, is I'm balancing the letters against each other in a way that I find pleasing. So if you have the formal rules next to you, M's and W's are very wide.
Yeah.
Very wide.
W is a little bit wider because M's are like...
You're right, they're more
like
upright. Yeah.
Okay.
W's are a lot wider. And R's are actually generally a bit narrower than I've drawn here.
Okay.
But very, very traditional Roman. You know, I think the R would be probably quite a lot thinner and would look very, very thin next to the O. So yeah, I hadn't really realized I was doing it, but I am modifying Roman a little bit.
But that's when you give your
getting
style.
away
That's
with it.
Good.
Roman, I mean, traditionally they often have a point at the top, but I find that really difficult to draw and balance well. Your letters need to be wider and the angle's different because, again, the pointed letters will poke above your top line a little bit more so than the rounded ones will.
Yeah, that was my next question. Yeah.
This one,
so
this
which letters will be A,
M,
N?
N, yeah, A, M, N. V will do the opposite, and so will W. Will go below the baseline a little bit.
Okay.
Okay,
interesting. Yeah. And with numbers too, like number 4 usually is quite long.
It is. that's something I struggle with actually, is numbers are really hard to paint well. And like anything, it needs practice, doesn't it? You know, like we were talking about casual the other day, and my casual, like I don't even have a casual. I find it really difficult because I've not put in the time yet. I've been focusing on more formal styles of lettering.
But it's the same thing. For me, casual is really easy because I have put tons of hours there. And I actually think that here is a good story that you could share with everyone. When we were talking like, how do you learn? And you were telling us that for circumstances of your life, you end up spending like a year like without a house, and you were traveling or staying with friends. Tell us about that.
Yeah, okay. So it is a really big part of my journey. And so during the pandemic, which was a messed up time, wasn't it? We're almost kind of forgetting and moving past it now, but it still remains the weirdest time ever. And yeah, I was without a home, unable to find a home, so I was living with friends. And it was just after the first lockdown that I discovered sign writing, and realized, wow, people do this as a job. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to do that. But kind of living with other people meant that I didn't have a space so I could paint really. These paints are really smelly and messy, aren't they? So I didn't really have a space or time to paint. So I used the time to get back into drawing. So drawing was something I did a lot when I was younger. I had a very long break from it. But I thought, well, we can't paint, but we can certainly draw. So I put loads of time into just getting back into drawing and drawing letters. So I used to do graffiti a lot and play with letters in a way that made them illegible. But this time I had to start playing with them and make sure they remained legible. Um, and I started off with a new sketchbook and thought I'm going to draw all the letters in the alphabet and do something different with each letter. And if I look back I meant to get the sketchbook out this morning, I forgot, but it's really bad. Like the A is bad, the B is quite cute. They've all got flaws, but they kind of show the journey as well, which is really exciting. I never finished getting through the alphabet. I got distracted with other things, but I just made sure that I carried on drawing. And in fact, I prepared some practice sheets so that when I was able to start painting, that I had something to paint. Because I knew I wouldn't be. I had a go with the paintbrushes a couple of times once I so this has actually probably helped push my direction. I discovered Dave Kinniston quite early on and bought his paintbrushes. And if for anybody who's got them, you'll know that not only are they amazing brushes and come in a beautiful holder, but they also come with a few guides as well for Dave Kinniston's alphabets. So you've got formal copper plate, upper and lowercase, and a Roman. And the Roman helped me massively. So it's got Dave's tips and tricks on there about the measuring system he uses. The point. So that's more traditional. Dave's got a very, very amazing, beautiful traditional Roman. So when you talk about the W being very wide and like the E's and R's being very narrow, kind of that shows it really well. So I've got a couple of the sheets here I could show you if you want to see. But,
definitely. Let's have a look.
this was one of several practice sheets that I drew out. And hopefully you can, I'm not sure if you can see there, but I've marked out boxes for each letter.
Okay, no, we cannot see that.
So yeah, maybe if you could, I'll get a little bit closer, you might be able to see the markings out. Yeah. So these were all measured out using Dave's system. And now I look at it, I see how far away that I've gone from some of these letters as well, and how much I've started to change them. So it's good to always go back and look at the rules again sometimes. This also shows the lowercase letters poking below, and the M only just going above. That's a really nice M, actually. I might try and redo them like that. But yeah, these were helpful for me. Drawing out the letters over and over again helps get it in your mind really well.
Definitely. Because actually, I will risk to say that you could get your brush control faster than what you can get your memory, your full knowledge on the alphabets and your skill to draw it, like your muscle memory. And it's something that I always say when I give a class, like people is really rushing just to paint. I want to have the brush in my hand. But then when they're painting, it's like terrible. But it's because they don't know how to draw. So always I think that if you want to speed up the process, mix both, like draw as much as you can and paint then over what you are drawing, then you develop both. But I thought that it was amazing, that story of you. Yeah, I think that for you, it sounds not nice, not having the space and like having to move from place to place. But at the end of the day, like, look, that it was actually kind of a gift for you to have the time to draw so much. So the moment when you were about to paint, it came up fast. For me, it was kind of the same, but with casual. When it was lockdown, I was in a hostel in Spain, and then I was a volunteer there. I was doing a rope climb trip, and then I got stuck there. So the family allow us to stay in the hostel to all of the volunteers. So we were like 20 people. I have a fantastic first lockdown, by the way. But then of course we have to work. So kind of we renovate all the place. And of course I was in charge of all of the signs. I didn't have access to any sign writers paint. So I was painting just with normal paint. Oh, it was a torture. I have to retrace every letter minimum 6 times, and I put 6 times to get like the contrast, because it was very translucent, the paint. But then after lockdown, I knew casual style, up and down, like I can draw it with my eyes closed. And I know that it's kind of the easiest alphabet because it's the one that is looser, but at the same time it also has rules as all of the alphabets.
Yeah, so, I mean, I disagree though. I don't think it is the easiest alphabet. I think because it's so loose, I personally think it's harder to get looking really good. And the people who manage it, you know, yourself included, stand out. They like tidy casual is really cool. But it's not easy. If it was easy, I'd be able to do it already.
Well, at the end of the day, I think that is like everything. You have to put the hours on learning it. So, because that's the point. We are very used, or I think that we are a society looking just for instant
quick fix,
like results and satisfaction. But with sign writing, also with calligraphy, for instance, there are not shortcuts. I mean, you have to put the time, you have to put the effort, you have to set your like practice station at home, in your studio, wherever you can, in the garage, wherever, and you have to give it a go. Even sometimes it happens to many like new sign writers that somehow they start getting commissions, and because they get busy with the work, they kind of left behind the practice. But I think that is a call, and I include myself there, for how important is to go back to practice. I think that it's what you were saying before. There was like 5 years, like schools, apprenticeships, everything. We don't have that. So we can't aim to be super pro if we don't put the time and the effort.
Exactly. So back to the Roman. So drawing is for me, or has been, the key to get these letter shapes in my mind, and it definitely has helped me in having confidence to paint them quickly, which I've done on a few jobs recently. That's a scary thing for sign writers, I think, or new sign writers who haven't gone through college and haven't got 5 years training and then apprenticeship. Being able to turn up and paint something straight away and it not look shit, because we don't want to do that, do we? We want everything to look really good. The customer wants it to look good, and we have to have confidence in our ability, but it's not always that easy, is it?
No, it's not. And also the surface can challenge you sometimes more or less. I mean, if it's very smooth surface, like glass is quite challenging, but I think that is even worse when it's a rough surface. I think that I haven't have to paint yet on something like that, and I pray for not getting that type of work.
I did my Roman signature on some Pebble Dash last year. I'll have to send you a picture of that. That was fun.
Oh
It
God.
was like painting on cornflakes.
No,
But
that's
yeah,
not
you're right.
nice. And with
Surface makes
Roman, with all the points like at the bottom, oh no, that's painful. But your signature, I love your signature, and I love
no,
like
thank you.
all the games that you create. In every job, you create shadows, angles, color. I love it. I really, really like it.
Thank you very much. That's really nice to hear. And I will play more games with my signature for sure.
That's really cool.
Um, so yeah, learning the shapes is the key to being able to paint them. I may well repeat myself, and forgive me if I do. So A's, I often make A's a little bit too thin. This one's quite thin, and it doesn't have a traditional center because I kind of made this space too big. So I just put a little.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll try and make this one a little bit wider. So again, we go above the top line, we break that a little bit, draw in the thicks. I'll go over this a bit thicker again so you can see it better.
Yeah, please.
The interestingly, the tops of A's and the bottoms of N's do a weird thing in traditional Roman. Same with W's. So rather than this being a straight line, obviously I said about doing a slight curve, but then it curves the opposite way at the tip, just a subtle amount, but it kind of it squares off that point a little bit. So that's something that you'll see a lot once you start to study. And I think I mean that's something we haven't talked about. We've talked about drawing the letters, but you're not going to be able to draw the letters unless you study them. You know, they'll end up looking weird or too wide, or the crossbar's in the wrong place. And even just looking back at my practice sheet where I've drawn out proper Roman, I've reminded myself, okay, I need to keep studying.
And how do you learn it?
How do you learn it? Um, that happens over time, doesn't it? Where you kind of have a go, you evaluate what you've done, and then you implement what you've learned and have another go.
But you have done also certain courses, no?
I have done actually. I didn't. It was so for the first year, really, I was just completely teaching on my own. Because again, we kept going into lockdowns as well, didn't we? There was 2 more lockdowns after I discovered sign writing. And after the third lockdown, that's when I connected with David Kinniston, and went over to meet him. So he lives in North Wales as well. He's about an hour and a half from me. And it was really funny to meet him actually, because obviously once I decided I was going to try sign writing and that I wanted some brushes, I kind of researched it at home and found a video of him with his brushes on YouTube. And kind of that captured my interest straight away. I was like, okay, this man is kind of has set the bar, I think. And you'll struggle to find anyone so
Yeah.
precise.
Yeah.
So it's really great to connect with him. I'm really fortunate that he's close, and I've done a lot of work with him, so that's helped me. But his courses, I can't recommend enough. Like if you want to try Roman and copperplate, even if you don't feel you're good at it, or whatever level you're at, even if you're an experienced sign writer, we can all learn something from Dave. I think he's got a wonderful way of teaching. And you'll pick up things on his courses that you just probably would never arrive at if you were teaching yourself. So highly recommend that, definitely. There are other online courses, people like you yourself do online courses. Joby does online
I'm
courses
about to
as well.
launch mine. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's been great to see that kind of building. That must be really exciting for you as well, man.
I am aiming to launch it this month. So probably when people see this, Either
Yeah.
will be about to be launched or already launched, but I have been tons of work. I never thought when I embarked on that project that it would be so challenging. So I just thought, yes, alphabet is easy. I teach it. I have taught it many times. But one thing is to teach. I didn't know. I don't feel afraid to be in a group and just talk, just come natural. But in front of a camera is a different game. Like it's a lot. And even after you get all the videos, it's tons of work after that for you just to be able to log in, put your password, and have access like this to the course. Man, the other person has worked a lot for you to have that smooth user experience. But wow,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
not go that way. So
We are
you,
grateful. We're grateful to people like yourself and everybody else who's put in that effort, because you are making signwriting accessible to people who wouldn't necessarily be able to have a go, you know? So it's
yeah,
really, really
that's
cool.
kind of what I wanted, because I think that being in Europe, or even the point is that when I kind of signwriting knocked the door of my life, I was before in calligraphy, then in hand lettering, but I didn't know anyone, not even through Instagram, who did signwriting. I remember the first person I saw, it was Jacob from Copenhagen Times, and I was like, wow, these are letters on asteroids. For me, it was like he was like, I want to do that. And it was like you, it clicked straight on, because I kind of knew my journey was through letters. But I love calligraphy and I really like my calligraphy and everything. I still do work with it. I mainly do work for weddings or commissions, and I love that. But I wanted like to have a wider spectrum for work and a little bit rafter. Like calligraphy is very neat, very delicate. And I am a little bit also more like, oh, I want to climb there, I want to get dirty. I mean, even I still have paint. I have been working on this final. So yeah, so but I like you, I have the chance to go to events, to learn from other people, to do a work experience. But not everyone has those chances. Also, like
But
I
you
am,
have to make, yeah, you have to make them as well, you know. Like it's great having the online courses, but an online course in itself won't make you a signwriter unless you're motivated, you put in
enough.
the
Exactly.
practice, and you
Exactly.
find experiences, you know, you have to.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I
and that's what,
wanted to say.
yeah, and sorry, people don't
Uh,
often see that part of our journey, do they? They just see what we're doing now. They don't see the struggles that you've had to get there, and you know
and the
the state
sacrifices, the
you're going.
investment, and everything. I
Yeah.
mean, I can tell you, for instance, when was that? Not the last fair of like the last handwriting of Joey Carter, but the one before. I remember I went there. I exposed all my vulnerabilities because it was a smaller like convention. Most part of people who were like experienced. I was one of the I'm new, sorry. And but I went there because I knew I wanted a work experience. I wanted an apprenticeship.
You have
And
to.
that's crazy. I just went there, and in the morning I was sit down in this group of all like what I call the old school sign writers, like all these guys that are fantastic. And I was just sit down there really, really early in the morning, and they start talking that it was a pity that there were no work experiences anymore. And I was like, I can't believe this. Is this my chance to ask, to say that I want to do a work
Yeah.
experience? And I just risk it. And in a point, everyone was like, sure, sure, of course you will be able to find a work experience. And then I say, okay, any one of you will be able to give me a work experience. You cannot imagine how nervous I was when I throw that comment, because it's like you are about to face rejection in your face. And everyone was like, yeah, well, you have to ask around. Yeah, I don't have a studio, or I don't have more work, or this and that. Okay. And eventually, Perry said to me, like, you seriously want to do it? Oh, sorry, that's my dog outside.
Someone else is joining in.
They're going for a walk, so sorry.
Oh.
um, So Perry, in certain moment, he say, well, if you want to do a work experience, I can teach you. Then I say, but you haven't seen my work. And he say, I don't need to see it. I mean, I can teach you from zero. And I was like, wow. But it's what you say, then the investment. I have to move. I have to live in the town where he lives, which is close to London, for 2 months, pay rent. I didn't get paid in that time because it was full work experience. Like, but what I learned is has me here, you know. It has opened, and it was not only about sign writing, it was also like seeing him dealing with the clients, replying to emails, all his knowledge he has in chemicals, it had been kind of transferred to me. And additionally to that is kind of creating a mentor learner or yeah, student relationship. So when I was there, it was very formal, like Perry keep very well his distance, and I was like the student and everything. But once I left, we became friends, and he was checking on me. And every time I have a job and I do not know, I'm like, Perry, how do you do this? Or Perry, how to quote it? Or I'm struggling with this or anything. And it's beautiful to have him at the end of the line, you know. And I think that for you is the case with Jovi and with David. It's kind of the same, no?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate in that respect. But again, it kind of has come through hard work and not luck, right? I mean, we make
No,
our
it's
own
not
luck.
luck at all.
No. And but I mean, I think I'm one of like the new generation of sign writers who've discovered it in lockdown, right? And you know, I discovered it by chance by doing a favor for a friend who then said, "Well, why aren't you doing this for a living?" And you know, being in lockdowns, everyone was near their phone, so it was for me the perfect time to discover this, you know, because you have access to the
Yeah,
world's best in any chosen field, whatever you choose to get into. Just message people, you know, the
yeah,
nice ones get back and are enthusiastic. So I made a lot of relationships with people, or started a lot of relationships just through talking on lockdown. I made some great friends. And that's when, so for me, Norwich was the same as your first time with Joby, and I saw it advertised, and I was like, I have to go there. I have to.
ah,
Absolutely no, like this is the start of it, and that's where we met as well, of course.
yeah,
Yeah, so I remember you giving me a lesson in script, kind of half drunk at 11 o'clock at night or something. That
yeah,
was brilliant. But what struck me is what a brilliant environment, like community it is as well of
yeah,
creative people. And we're really, really lucky, and there's a lot of people who are willing to help. So
yeah,
if you're looking to get into it, or you're not sure about something, just pick somebody you like their work and reach out to them, ask them a question. Most people will get back, you know.
yeah, exactly. I think that is technology has its disadvantages, but it also has the advantage that allowed us just to knock the door. And what I always say to myself is, at the moment, I have a no because but if
Yes.
you contact the person and they reply, it's a plus. So just put yourself on the vulnerable place and
You.
just do it.
That, there's something you said a bit ago, kind of is some of the best advice for anybody getting into anything. And you said, you know, it's really uncomfortable, but you know, we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. As even though that doesn't quite make sense, but it is. It's push your
No,
comfort zone, isn't it? Step out your comfort zone, and good
it's
things happen.
developing your resilience. And
Yeah,
let's be
for sure.
honest, sign writing is not a comfortable craft. We
No,
were talking as well as that. I don't feel old, but I do wonder how the old generation still pain, because I get back pain, shoulder pain, elbow pain, wrist pain. Like it's like I have to do full therapy some days.
it's
But also it's
hard.
a
It is
lot.
hard.
Yeah, and also you were telling me like you have like back pains and everything. So it's not easy to be there giggling on a leather or like halfway because the design is very low or things like that. It's not glamorous a lot, but when
No,
you get
no, and
hooked, when you get
there's
obsessed,
there's so much to being a sign writer, so much more than painting signs, isn't there?
Yeah.
There really is. Like you talked about, Perry saying about the business side and dealing with clients and looking after your body and finding good ways to work. So
Yeah.
there's so much we could talk about as well,
Yeah.
isn't there? So much.
Anyway, let's continue with Roman to see one day we finish.
We're nearly there. We've got one more letter to go. One more
Say.
letter. The crossbars of A's can often be too low and they'll look strange, too high and it'll look strange. So it's about getting that height right. And I usually guess it these days, but there is a rule. I'm not going to give you all the rules. There are people doing courses who could teach you far better. You know, this is a demonstration as to how I do it. And these days I kind of judge it by what I think looks right. Again,
So you
curve.
go a little bit above the middle line, the
So
center line?
this is actually a little bit below. Let's rub out the other mark so we can see it. So here's the center line. And on this A, I've gone a little bit below. I don't
Okay.
actually like I don't like the shape of this A, so we'll maybe change it in a sec. But that roughly looks kind of right. It's not, again, this is kind of my quick take on Roman, which is what we discussed, I think, wasn't it? And this isn't formal, definitely correct Roman. You know, I certainly wouldn't feel like I'm ready to teach anybody properly yet. I still have so much to learn. So again, so kind of anyway, we can change the shape afterwards. Let's just get rid of this line. But for our next letter, so again, we're trying to balance this amount of negative space with this amount. Otherwise, you know, if we put the N right there, it'll look kind of too crowded. So we're just trying to always balance our letters. But again, like I said, tracing papers helped me in that journey. So slight curve to our thin stroke again.
With Roman, it also apply in terms of negative space that two round letters have the closest point and like two parallel letters have the wider. It also the same rule?
Right. That's absolutely right. And that's what I've kind of tried to do here. So, but curved letters also applies to like W's and A's. And what we mean when we say curved is that it's not an upright straight line. Yeah. So the back of an R is straight, the back of the D is straight, but the fronts of both are curved.
Yeah.
So there's always that. So anything that's not dead straight we refer to as a curve. And then a curve and a straight is kind of in the
between.
middle.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
So for instance,
right.
if you will have an A, sorry, an I and an H, both are straight, that will be the widest space. But if you have the word, for instance, tool, the O's is the closest that they go, because you also count the negative space of the aperture.
That's right. And something that's often said to people is kind of imagine you're filling the negative space, the area in between the letters, with sand, and you want to get the same amount of sand in each negative space. That works if we're working in a 3D plane, but you know, we can't actually fill it with sand, so maybe it's not that useful. But it's different analogy, isn't it? So we're just trying
to balance. I remember I learned that analogy in the Joey Carter's event. I learned it from Peter. And Peter was saying, imagine that you have like sandbags and you have to put, imagine you have 10 sandbags. You have to put all of them between every letter. And then I was like, that's impossible. And he said, if it's impossible, you are doing the negative space wrong. You cannot leave one bag out.
That's a very good analogy. And I do think for anybody learning and who's ready to put in the time, tracing paper is a useful thing because you won't get it right straight away. You won't.
No.
But by using tracing paper and moving your letters, you are starting to build up that kind of mental vision of the spaces that are needed as well. So that when it comes,
Another good tip is to stand up like backwards and how do you say squint?
Squint, yeah.
your eyes.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I was like, I don't know what they are talking about.
I think the reason we squint as well is so that you're not actually reading a word.
No.
So another technique that was given to me, which is really effective, is turn the word upside down. So you're no longer looking at the actual letter shapes because you can't really read them upside down, but you see the thing more.
Ah,
That's a really useful trick for small
that's
stuff.
an amazing tip. I
Yeah,
love it. Thank you.
because our brains just read it, don't they? And once you can take that out, suddenly you're left with ultimately what they are, which is just shapes, and we're trying to
Yeah.
balance the shapes.
Oh, great.
That's what we're always trying to do. So this end, I'm going to do the little point above because we haven't done it with the end. We've flattened these off, which is cheating, but because I find it so much easier. So we'll go a little bit above. So that's our top line. I'm going to go that much above. So that's what, I don't know how much of the letter there. It's less than 10%. Again, I'm just going to rough it in.
Tomo, when you do the vertical strokes, like the one you just did for the end, you say that they're a little bit curved. They are curved from both sides, from the exterior line to the interior line, or just the exterior line? Or like in the R as well?
In the art, yeah. So the both. So let's try and do a better visual kind of demonstration of it for you.
Maybe do it closer under the O, because then we could see it
Okay,
better.
sure. Is that better? Yeah.
Yeah, there we can see it better.
So there we've got the two parallel lines. I'm going to just draw these in lightly.
That ruler is fantastic.
Oh, it's really helpful. It's a rotring one. It goes onto their drawing table as well. But have lots of drawing tools. Buy loads and loads of drawing tools. They're always helpful. So when we say curved, let's just put in some lines there as well, top and base line. To do an eye, we'll add some serifs to the straight letter. We basically want the central part of the top stroke just to be a little bit smaller, and it really only needs to be a tiny amount. So from that top line, we're literally just curving ever so slightly, and then back out to this point again. Point to
Could
the
you
side,
trace that line darker, then we can see better?
Yeah, of course. Move my arm this way. Because of where the camera is, I can't sit straight in front of what I'm drawing.
Sorry, no worries.
No, it's cool. It's different.
You know what I found challenging about Roman, above everything, is also like the thin lines, like the serif, are very, very thin. And I think that's one of the brush control challenges that I will face with this alphabet.
Yes, it is something that only comes with lots of practice. But quite honestly, going on Dave Kinniston's courses would help that massively in watching how somebody who's really good at it does it, or go along to a letterhead meet, because quite often there's people doing workshops at those events. And you can get a nice flavor of everything at those events, and people are so happy to share what they know. But yeah, Dave's got some techniques which really help, because it's hard. Being able to place the brush and get the sharpest line is the hardest bit. Taking it off is a lot easier, but it's about how you lay on that pressure and which part of the brush you use, and also how you palette your brush. That makes a difference. Yeah.
Do you,
So
when you palette, you use, what's your body posture? You use a mild stick and a palette?
Yes, so I usually all the time I use one of these palettes. So I'll generally have my paint cup there, where the camera is quite close, and I'll palette against there. Yeah, and you're trying to get a nice flat chisel shape. I mean, this is a good example. I don't know if the camera will focus because it's got Vaseline on currently. Where's the camera? There we go. So you turn it one side and it's flat, turn it the other side and it's super sharp. So that's what you're trying to get with paint, really. So you want it to look like that with paint. If you've got too much paint on your brush, it'll never go into that shape. And that's a mistake I see a lot of people doing, is putting lots and lots of paint on and then just trying to tickle it with the tip. And it's like, well, kind of works. But once you learn how to place it on, apply the pressure and pull it off and do it in one stroke, you'll just speed up so much more and it feels good and you gain confidence. So yeah, look for an opportunity to learn from the people who are really great at it. And also,
we have to take the chance that everyone is alive still.
Well, exactly. I'm gonna mark it on this W to show you as well. What we don't want is serifs that point out miles. We don't want them out like that. They'll look really weird. You want them kind of as short and as sharp as you can make them.
And how is the curve of the serif?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want it to. Let's draw this a bit bigger. So this is the top of the W, and this is the downstroke. Okay? You want a nice curve. You don't want it to be straight. I mean, you can draw serifs that are triangular, but they look weird. They look a bit janky and aren't very nice. Yeah. So I always try to take it as close into that point as possible.
Okay. So the curve is actually very, very small.
Very small. The smaller, the better, I think. Because again, if you have a big curve, you end up with a big serif. And then,
exactly.
and
it's hard to balance the one at the other side.
It's really hard. It's really, really hard. When you come to painting them, one thing that I was taught is so on an A, if we were painting the A stroke, I'd normally do the thick stroke first, would I? I'd probably mark in the little one, but you always paint the inside serif first, not the outside serif, because the temptation as well is to paint a really big curve on the outside of A's and W's and M's, but painting the inside get you a nice tight shape, and then you match to that one.
So you paint, for instance, if you're going to paint the A, you paint it in 6 strokes, like 2 in the thin line, 2 in the thick, and 2 in the middle?
Yes, exactly that. Absolutely. So you do 1 to get the inside serif, 1 to get the outside serif on both sides, and then the crossbar is always curved as well. It looks nicer when it's curved, just slightly, like we're doing these letters, or the vertical stroke. Just curve everything slightly. It's more pleasing than
at the bottom. When you trace the serif on one side and the other one, you don't trace a line at the bottom. It's just, it connects.
Yeah, so you've got your baseline. I haven't drawn these in very dark. Kind of not used to doing things on camera, really. So that's our baseline. So you just draw to the baseline with your serif. And then what I tend to do, hopefully you can see this. If not, we'll have to do another talk, Joe, and I'll draw everything bigger. So I don't use the baseline as the bottom of my letter. Again, I curve. So just like a fraction above the baseline, curve the bottom of the letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you are painting it, you paint that curve?
Yeah.
So it will be 6, 7, 8 strokes in total for that A.
Usually, yes, because you're right. Sorry. So when you do your stroke, your first stroke, you'll end up like that shape on it, and you'll end up with like a fishtail at the bottom.
With a fishtail, yeah.
Doing your serifs. So you will need to fill in there, of course.
But Momo, you're really good because your serifs are very thin. So how do you retouch it and don't make wider the serif? It's a challenge.
Yeah, I guess it is. And it's practice again, like we've said with anything else, it's practice. Um, and I've been spending time doing the style of painting that I enjoy. I really like fine precision. Um, but as you know, Joa, these are amazing tools, our mouse stick, and once
Yeah.
you learn how to do it, you literally are only touching the tip of the brush. And it's amazing how fine you can actually second coat things. So even with like formal English copperplate script and things like that, the thins are
Uh-huh.
really, really thin, aren't they? Um,
Yeah.
and quite often they need second coating. But once you get used to the feeling and how you move the brushes, it's amazing the shapes you can follow
Yeah.
um, when you're just super light. But again, practice, confidence. Confidence helps a lot
Yeah.
because you relax, don't you? When you're confident, you relax. If you're tense, you're never going to get fine
Nothing
serif
comes
or
through.
something.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Same with any lettering style, any sport even, the harder you try, the harder it gets normally. When you relax and there's no pressure,
It
you
applies for
perform
life
well.
too.
Yeah, so just try and have fun with it, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we'll just finish off this end quickly. So again, like I've gone above, going below just a little bit, and the same with this point on the A. So we've got a curve uh, downstroke, and then I'm curving the opposite direction just to finish.
When you say the opposite direction will be like towards your hand is?
Yeah, I'll draw it a little bit bigger now as well, so you can see it below. So we've got baseline, got our, this is the downstroke, which I'm going to curve a little bit, and then curve in the opposite direction. Yeah, so what you're getting is it's curving like that, and then inwards. So that's an exaggerated version,
Yeah.
but it's just subtle. Because
Mhm.
otherwise, if we carried, because this downstroke is curving this way, if we
Uh-huh.
carried on the curve, then our point would end up down here. You see,
Ah, okay.
which just wouldn't be right. I mean, if you did it with every letter, you could make it a feature maybe, but we're not doing that. So
You're giving me a lot of like desires to learn this alphabet as well. Now I'm like, I want to
and it,
crack on it because it has different rules that, for instance, block, casual, or like script.
does it? I mean, I guess because I'm so for everyone watching, I have committed fully to learning Roman. It's the thing I love doing, and it's kind of my casual because I've got to a point where I'm comfortable enough that I can turn up somewhere and paint Roman that looks okay. Or people tell me it looks really good. I don't think it
Nice.
does, but there we go. But I don't fully know the rules for uh, other lettering styles yet. I'm getting there. My copper plate is getting quite good. I kind of know I understand the rules for script.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I've not committed fully to understanding, so I don't really know the full differences with rules. But I do understand that I think, and I was told this at the beginning, that if you learn Roman, everything else will be a lot easier. And like I was like,
Probably.
okay,
Or
oh
block.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, block becomes easier because of so I've done a few jobs with block. I don't understand the rules, but all of the jobs I've done look okay. And I think that's because I understand letter proportions through my
Yeah,
Roman
exactly.
practice and study.
Yeah.
Um, because you understand what kind of looks right, the proportions and the spacing, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
also, like Joby and Dave both teach this. Joby's a big advocate, but whenever you're doing lettering, anyone watching, mark out your thick and thin strokes and use your piece of card across your whole piece of work, and it will look better for being consistent.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
That's a
as
really good
as soon as you
advice.
get inconsistencies, it just looks a bit naff, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, but I really like already the Roman you have right. I love it.
I like to. I'm absolutely addicted to adding a block to everything and a cast shadow at the moment. So you can go ahead and you can play with letters as much as you like. Again, if you've got a drawing table, great. Before I had this big table, I had a little desktop A3 drawing table, and that's what I worked off for a long time.
Wow.
But it makes it easy for adding like again, consistency. If you're going to add a block, draw in a second baseline below. Just a quick demonstration for you. So there are two baselines, and then make all of your block go to that baseline, all at 45 degrees. It makes it consistent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got an example here actually of something that I have added a block to and a cast shadow. I don't know how well
Yeah,
you
I
can
love
see
it.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Wow. Beautiful.
it's really good fun. I love doing stuff like that, and I've done a series of these. But there's kind of I kind of have started now playing around with Roman a little bit more. So there's a nameplate I'm doing for somebody
Love it.
on well slate and trying to make it look like it's carved so that there's a shadow on
It
one
looks.
side of the letter. But it's lots of fun, and because of practice, I can do that sort of thing quite quickly now. But you know, there's I've still got so much to learn in other styles.
But you already have shared a lot with us today, and I really, really appreciate that. I think that, well, this is just like a taster of
Yeah,
Roman style, but it's a really good demonstration, a really good example. Momo, if there will be people that would like to get in touch with you, where they can reach you, like email, website, social media, what are
yeah, of
your channels?
course. So I mean, most people use Instagram these days, and that's where a lot of people get in touch with me. You know, I'm always happy to answer questions. So on Instagram, I'm at Momo Signs. You can find me on Facebook as well. I do have an email address and a website. The website's www.momosigns.co.uk, and that has an email address for me as well. So if you want to have a look at any of my previous work, feel free to go and have a look. Or if you want to inquire about getting some cool stuff done, then you know, let's work together. But
Oh,
yeah,
lovely, of course.
if people are learning and they have questions for me, I would love it. I love it when people do get in touch, because I've benefited so much from the kindness and generosity of other people, and I love to give back as well. So
Oh, Momo, thank you very much. Thank you for
thank
your
you,
time.
Gemma.
And well, it has been a pleasure. Tons of love. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Take care.